Hey, it's Rebecca, and you're listening to Resilient by Design. So, today I'm going to talk about discount sharing because I know that everyone who owns a business of any kind is asked at some point in their business journey, can I get a discount? Do you extend your discounts to clients? What's your designer discount? And it often makes us feel undervalued and underpaid. And let's freaking be honest, uncomfortable. So today's episode is all about what to say and how to handle these uncomfortable conversations around discounts. Enjoy.
All right. I'm Rebecca Hay, and I've built a successful interior design business by trial and error, podcasts, online courses, and so many freaking books. Over the last decade, I've grown from an insecure student to having false starts to careers, and now I'm finally in the place where I want to be. Throughout my journey, it's been pretty obvious that I'm passionate about business and helping other entrepreneurs do the same. Each week, I'll share tangible takeaways from my own experience and the experiences of other badass women to help you build your confidence and change your business.
All right. So, how do you handle it when your client or a potential client asks for your designer discount? Everyone is going to encounter this, and probably you've already encountered this. If you've been doing design for a hot minute, or you're running a creative business where you do something because you're passionate about it, and maybe the business side doesn't come as naturally, or you just don't have the same experience, it can feel uncomfortable and overwhelming when questioned about discounts and giving people a deal. So today's episode is all about what to say and how to handle these uncomfortable situations. I'm going to walk you through some specific things that you can ask clients when they ask you to flip the tables on them, and how you can handle saying no. Because let's face it, most of us don't want to share discounts, don't want to discount our services because we know that we are worth it. And quite often, sometimes we cave or give in because, it's uncomfortable. So how do we respond to this question in a way that is honest, balanced, and healthy for us and our clients? So I've polled friends in the industry, other business owners, my husband, the internet, and my own past experiences of my own situations dealing with discount questions to help you out. And now, before I dive in, I do want to preface this by saying, if you have been following me for a while, or you're inside my designer's room, or you just follow me on Instagram, you will know that I personally believe designers and decorators and entrepreneurs, especially creatives, should not and do not need to share their discounts. Today's episode is not about the why. I just don't believe you should. And so I'm going to help you in this episode handle these situations or these objections when they arise. Okay, here we go. First of all, you might want to dig a little deeper into what lies behind this client's request for a discount. Because at the same time, you can refocus the conversation away from money and back towards value. I'm a huge believer in taking the conversation away from the money. It's the same reason many business coaches will tell you to discuss client budgets instead of using the word budget, to use the word investment, right? It's all about how you frame it. So you could say something when someone asks you about discounting your services, or do you extend your discounts, or what's your designer discount? You could say something like, do you see cost being a major obstacle to getting the design that you want? A question like this puts the ball back into the client's court, and it helps you determine their motivation for asking you in the first place. Because there could be a lot of things at play here. They may not actually have the money in the bank to pay for the service that you offer. One sec, I'm taking a sip of water. They might just also be interested in getting a cheaper price out of you if they can, because That's who they are, and they like to negotiate. But you might be surprised by how often the response is, no, I was just wondering. I've personally experienced this before where I flipped a table on the client, where I explained why we don't share our discount, to hear the client say, okay, I was just curious. You might be surprised, and that might actually just squash it and end the conversation right then and there. You could also say something like this. Before we talk about the numbers and pricing, let's make sure that my services are a good fit for your needs. This is a really good opportunity to dive into who you are, what you do, so that it's very clear the value that you offer, right? You're going to refocus them back onto the value and why they need what you have to offer before you can dive into talking about the numbers. It can help clients put things into perspective, right? When they see the value that you offer, they might take a step down and not want to discuss discounting your service. But if you haven't had a chance to paint that picture of the value you offer, it's going to be a whole lot easier for them to try and nickel and dime you. And also, the money talk could be a waste of time because if the type of service you offer isn't the right fit for them, well, there's no point in discussing discounts and pricing. So, for example, we offer a full service design. That's not for everyone. And to be quite honest with you, in the last year, we've probably lost more jobs than we've landed because we stick to, no, we have a project minimum. This is how we do it. We do not veer from our process. And some clients love it, and it's not for everyone. And so if it's not for them, then they will walk away. So it's an opportunity to really get clear on if what you do is truly right for them. And perhaps if you're someone who offers packages, you could be thinking about which package could suit them best, right? And maybe you offer them one at a lower price. So if they've asked for a discount on your design fees, right? So they're asking to negotiate, or they think because they're an industry insider, they should get a better price, or they're a family friend, or who knows what they're thinking. But if they've asked for a discount on your fees, you could ask them, what do you think would be a reasonable discount? And again, you're putting the ball in their court, and you only want to say this if you are open to discounting your services. If you do not want to discount your services, I would not recommend you say this. But if you are open and willing to negotiate because you want the work, you know it's a great project, it seems like like a really ideal client, you could say, what do you think is a reasonable discount? What do you think? So you're flipping it on them. Usually the first person to speak ends up not getting the best deal. I think there's like something along those lines out there. But how do you know their situation or what kind of discount's going to be helpful or necessary to them? We might assume our own sticker shock and go and say, hey, you know what? I'll give it to you for $1,000 less or 20% off, when really they were just happy with a smaller discount, or maybe they want half. So for example, if they say I can pay half, you could also follow up with, just to clarify, are you saying that half price is what you think the service is worth, or that you're not able to pay more than half at this time? Because this question will help you, and if you're comfortable asking this question, it's very powerful because it will help you get to their motives. Because they may not have thought this through. They may just be trying to throw it out there. This is a piece of information and knowledge I wish I had in the past. I remember being in a situation with a family friend who had hired me. And when I went to invoice my final bill, they came back to me and said, no, absolutely not. I think it should be half that. And I think I actually talked about this. This came out, I'd forgotten this. I'd buried this experience way, way deep. And it came out when I was talking to Katie Raffetto in our recent episode all about billing structure and her experiences. And I shared that in that episode because I'd forgotten. I kind of like completely mentally blacked that out. That the client came back, and yes, I was offended. I was upset. But ultimately I acquiesced. If I had been like braced with this knowledge and this question, if I'd had the nerve to ask it at the time, I was pretty junior. I don't know if I would have asked it, but if I'd had, I think it would have really caught them off guard and made them really think about what they were asking of me. So The question is, just to repeat it, just to clarify, are you saying that half price is what you think the service is worth, or that you're not able to pay more than half at this time? Because it really highlights that they're asking something really big from you. Now, I don't want to say you can't ever discount your services, because there are certainly times and places for that. We recently began negotiations with a client on a contract for a project that we really, really want. We kind of went in high and they really wanted to work with us. And so we said, okay, let's work with you. And there's ways to do things at a lower price, which often means reducing the scope. But also, sometimes you can offer discounts to benefit you and your clients. So here are some ways that I have seen others offer discounts to clients that could benefit them and the client as well. So in marketing, and I've heard this before, I think it's Blair Enns, I think is his name. He talks about the idea of offering 3 options. So it's a well-known marketing rule. It's called the rule of 3, where you can offer a small, scaled back package. And for most clients, it's not going to be as appealing because it doesn't give them everything they want. But if they truly can't afford more, then it might actually meet their needs at the time. But then you can offer an expensive plan at the other opposite end with a whole bunch of extras. And many people will dismiss it right away, right? Because it's over the top too much. And then after that, you offer one middle of the road package, the one you expect that most people are probably going to buy. So you've got low, medium, and high. And this way, if someone asks for a discount, you can show them the various options that you've predetermined and preset, and you know that you can still make money doing, and they can choose how much they want to spend, and therefore how much they get in return for that spend. I would say that my process in some ways is set up that way, where there's the low, medium, and high. The low would be a consultation only, where I offer all my wisdom for up to 2 hours. And then from there, you can take it and DIY it or do what you like. Then the medium option would be consultation plus design service, which would be our phase 2, where we do all the design. We give you a complete package, but then you take it and implement it, working with your own contractor, finding your own products. And then the top-notch, top dollar is the full service, where it's consultation, complete design, and complete implementation. It's not entirely following this marketing rule of 3 because, well, let's face it, I really only want to work with number 3, which is the full complete service. But there is that option. So if someone says, wow, there's a lot, that's where I say, we'd be happy just to take it to the end of phase 2, and then you can do it yourself. But quite often that doesn't appeal to our ideal client, because they hear that and they think, oh gosh, I don't want to deal with the contractor myself. So this way, you are standardizing your discount, right? You can offer them a cheaper option. Maybe you have packages. Maybe they're based on hours. I often say have one core offering, but if you want to have variations on that based on cost, I say go for it, as long as you're still doing the same service offering. I don't believe that for a small business it makes sense to have a smorgasbord of offerings. I can do paint color, I can do this. It's very confusing for the buyer. It's confusing for the person who's delivering the service. You never remember who's doing what and where and what am I charging them, and it's harder to make money that way, I think, unless you're a big organization. So you can offer a cheaper option through packages, or you could just make sure that you always have a standardized discount. So this is another way that you could entertain this idea of a discount for your services. Again, I'm just talking services right now. Because it could prevent you, by having something standardized on paper for you internally, it could help you to prevent those last minute panic moments, right? Because someone asks you and you're caught off guard and you don't know what kind of discount to offer. Maybe if you standardize it, and if somebody asks, you give them the option that if they pay 75% up front, they get a small discount. No different than when designers join my Designers Room membership, and you've seen many subscription services like this. But if you pay in full, you get it's a better price than if you pay monthly, right? So for example, we just signed up for another software platform, and by signing up for the year, we got 2 months free, right? You could do something like this. You don't have to offer this to every client, but to at least have that option there ready to go, you can give that potential client solid choices. And then you can avoid the back and forth, right? That like kind of haggling. And then lastly, if you are going to pass on any kind of discounted service, I would think about it the way that a lawyer looks at pro bono work. It's not terrible to sometimes do a job for free or nearly free because, this way you might be able to get a little bit of experience, get your foot in the door. It could be an honorable option if you're trying to help somebody out. But I recommend that you set a limit to that. So if you are going to do that, then maybe it's 2 people a year or 1 a year or 1 a month or whatever works for you, depending on the type of service that you offer. You should set boundaries so that you don't find at the end of the year, you look back and you're irritated at yourself for having passed on so many discounts and you're causing harm to your overall business financially. You want it to be sustainable, right? And honestly, a truly free service, I'm just going to throw it out here, which is why here's the reason I do not believe you should do consultations for free, and that free services are generally not recommended by most business coaches, is that more often than not, when someone does not invest in a service, that they either A, don't value it, or B, they feel that they don't deserve it. And so these feelings can suddenly be manifested in the client suddenly ghosting you. Or as I had someone, I booked a consultation once, didn't ask them to pay because they were through a friend, and I showed up to consult. She wasn't even there. She forgot about it. She was out grocery shopping, right? And so, or they could be difficult to work with. And it's not going to be good for either of you. There could be some resentment on your end, and they could have expectations that are unrealistic on the other end. So it's important, I think, to charge something, even if it's a few dollars, so that you feel that the client feels that they earned your service and that you feel that you're at least getting something for it. But if you are going to do something for free, maybe you have a limit. I only work for free for immediate family, or I don't work for free at all, but I'll do 1 pro bono small decorating project a year. Like, make it something. And then you can say, I'll do one, discount. I'll do 1 discount, I don't know, or discounted or free service a year to help out a community member. But we've already maxed that out this year, but perhaps we can work together next year. I mean, I've never tried that. This is something that I've read about people doing successfully. I would be very cautious with this route because you don't want to get labeled as the discount designer or as the person who, when pushed, will deliver their services at a discounted rate. So here's the part that I like. Here's how to say no, thank you. Because I really do not believe that you should have to discount your services or pass on your discounts. So now we're going to talk a little bit about that. You know how I feel already that your discounts or the markups, the margin that you can make on goods that you resell to your clients is intended for you. It is not intended for your client. If it was intended for your client, they could just call up your vendor and get the same price or get the discount. And so it's important to understand that those margins, those markups, those discounts are there for you. You are being treated, it's almost like a commission for being an extension of their business, a salesperson for their business. They're rewarding you. Your vendors are rewarding you for doing business with them repeatedly. I do not believe you need to pass that on to your client. I also know from experience that it is challenging to run a profitable design business when you pass on your discounts. You need to be charging a hell of a lot of money for your design fees in order to compensate. And in my experience and what I see out there, most designers are not nearly charging enough in their design fee to make up for the fact that they pass on all of their discount. Okay, so There are many reasons why you may choose to say no. You may believe in some of the reasons I believe in. But here are some ways that you could have that conversation with your clients about not doing or offering discounts. So you just tell them that you don't offer discounts and you don't share your designer discounts, and then you explain why. It is the simplest response, and it gets so many of us weak in the knees and goosebumpy and scared and butterflies in our stomach to do it. But sometimes it's a basic explanation, honestly, is all that your clients need. It's similar to what we said earlier. Quite often, once you say it, the clients say, okay, I was just curious, or I was just asking, oh, I just wasn't sure how it worked. I've had that happen. And then we go on to have a great relationship with that client. I've been asked many times in the past, a lot less now, but that if I could pass on my designer discount, or do I share a portion of the discount to help make up for my fees? I've actually been asked that. And I'm always very unapologetic. And I explain that my service is what it is, and that my discounts are retained in-house. And I typically say, and I've said this here before, but I'll say it again, what I say is, I used to share, I'll say like, oh no, that's a great question. It's certainly a valid question, but what do I say? I don't say unfortunately. What I say is we don't share our discounts anymore. There was a time in my business journey where I did offer or to pass on my discounts to my clients, but I found that it wasn't a profitable business model. Full stop, stop talking. More often than not, clients will just shut the F up and they will say, oh yeah, no, okay, I was just curious. Because the reality is, if they are the right human being, they do not want you to go out of business because of them. They don't want you to lose money because of them. And if they keep pushing, then you have to question and ask yourself if this is the type of person that you want to work with. So what might help you to further communicate this is to show the value of your service. So you might want to compare yourself to others in your area, right? Maybe the qualified time that you spend on projects is greater than other designers. Do you offer extra services that other designers don't do, like white glove service, a receiver? There's a lot of opportunity because clients often don't even really know the difference between design firms. They don't know it unless you tell them. So it's a really great way to avoid any continued unnecessary discounting is to know what others are doing in the industry. Like I know there's designers who share their discounts, and then show your clients how much more value you can bring to the table as a result. And it's just as simple as that. We offer full service design. We've got the whole team on board. Part of our implementation process is that we place all of the orders, we manage any of the delays, we oversee, we follow up with the vendors, we're ensuring that the tile arrives on time, we make sure it's inspected, we work with the receiver to hold all the materials until a lot of time is spent. And I can tell you guys, one thing that I've recently started saying in discovery calls about the implementation fee, because in our industry right now, there's been so many delays, right, due to supply chain issues that, and labor shortages and all the rest. I do say sometimes, this is our fee for implementation. It's the percentage of total budget, yada, yada, yada. And to be quite honest, I've considered upping that fee just because the time that is involved in this phase of the process is actually the most time consuming. And we're finding it's taking more of our team's hours with tracking shipments, dealing with back orders and delays and reselections that I have wondered if we're charging enough. Right away, that tends to shut them up because they're like, oh no, we don't want to be charged at the new rate. We want to stick with what you got right now. So I think educating them on what time commitment, what is involved, what you do will really, really help. But ultimately, just say no. And if you're still getting those bad vibes and they haven't really answered your questions and you're not feeling comfortable with this client and you feel like the type of client that's going to keep pushing, all you have to do is say no. don't be afraid to walk away. You are going to be 100,000 times better to lose the client at the start, like right from the get-go, than to accept a lower price and end up resenting them the entire time that you are working with them. You are going to feel grumpy, angry, unappreciated, and likely their need for control in the partnership will continue. Another way you could do it, and this is not something I've done, this is something that I've heard about people doing, is you could offer a payment plan. So it's the type of thing that you see a lot of times when people purchase courses. So for example, when I run Power of Process, we often have, you get a better price if you pay for the whole course right now. Or, if it suits you and it's more economical for you, you can break it down into 3 equal payments of, or 4 equal payments of. So it feels like it lessens the blow a little. For me, I haven't done this, but I could see potentially this being helpful. We do require design fees to be paid upfront, 100%. But with the right project, if there was really an opportunity to work with someone, I could offer that. Instead of discounting, I could say, I'd be happy to break it down into 2 installments or 3 installments or whatever works for you. But this way, you're just spreading out their payments. It is a little bit more work on your end, and you might have to chase them for the money. So just be warned. I recommend collecting the fees up front. Because then you have the money and so you can deliver the service. You do need to build trust though before you can collect so much money. For the very first time, when I decided I was going to charge for consultations and I wanted to get paid up front, I said to the client, we let them know that Rebecca will be there. Please have a check ready prior to the consultation. Or of course you can e-transfer prior to or pay credit card prior to. And this client wanted to pay by check. I don't do checks anymore, but I did back then. And so I got there, I was super nervous. I was like, okay, Rebecca, you've got to ask for the money up front. Because I hate it at the end, or I've had in the end where they're like, oh, we're going to pop the check in the mail. And then the check never comes. And so I went to the woman and I said, okay, well, I'd just like to get the payment taken care of right up front. So here's the invoice. You can write the check out to Rebecca Hay Designs, Inc. And the client was a little bit off-put. I'm not going to lie. She was, probably early to late 60s. And she said, oh, well, I'm not accustomed to paying for something before I've received the service. And God bless me, because I stuck to my guns. And I said, yeah, no, this is how we always do it. I find it's really helpful to get the payment sorted at the beginning, and then we can just relax and focus on the consultation for the rest of our time together. And I did not back down. And she went to the kitchen and she got her checkbook and she wrote the check. Like, what did you think I was going to do? Like, I was going to run out the door? Seriously. And I put it in my bag and then I grabbed my clipboard and we were off to the races. Ultimately, that client never ended up hiring us based on our proposal, and I'm not shocked in hindsight, and it's probably for the best. All right. Ultimately, if somebody is going to push you and you don't feel confident in your response, it will show and it will be hard to stand your ground. Be confident. It is the most important part of handling these client objections, of dealing with the discount discussion. Practice it at home. Write a script down like the one that I use when I talk about how it wasn't a profitable business model. Literally, put the script down on a piece of paper, recite it to yourself in the mirror, get confident. That way, when the question arises, you're ready with your response. And you don't need to worry about feeling caught off guard, because there's nothing worse than not being ready for the difficult conversations with a client. Okay. I would love to hear from you guys, your experience about this, whether or not you pass your discounts on, how you've handled these situations in the past. If this was helpful, join us inside Designer Meetups in Facebook. I do feel very strongly about this because as I've gone through this numbers journey and really understanding the finances in my business, I've really started to see that I have to charge my worth and I can't charge my discounts if I want to make a profit and pay myself the amount of money that I think I'm worth. And you know what? You might lose some projects. That's just the reality. But if you keep positioning yourself in the marketplace where you need to be, offering the value, you will get the right clients who truly value your worth and do not even question if you're going to share a discount. If you want to know more about this, I did a really great episode, and I don't know the number of it. I did a really great podcast episode where I interviewed my own clients, Kelly and Glenn. I think it was season 2. I'll find the number for you guys. And we talk with my clients about discount sharing, and they shared their opinion and how they see it coming from the client side. So I think that's really, really interesting. I also have talked about it with Marilee Wright in the Know Your Numbers 3-part series on finances with my operations manager and past client, Marilee. She talks about it. So if you don't take my word for it, listen to them and hear what they have to say. All right. I hope that was a helpful episode. I will see you soon.